What's a fact that sounds fake but is actually legit? It is thought the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, were originally separate organisms that our ancestors' cells took up to form a symbiotic relationship, through a process called endosymbiosis. That's why mitochondria have their own DNA, which biologists call mtDNA for short, and a single, circular genome, not unlike the structure of other bacterial genomes. This is called the endosymbiosis hypothesis of origin, and it's also thought to be the case for chloroplasts, which are a part of plants that have a role in photosynthesis. Edit, phrasing. The other cool thing is that all of our mitochondrial DNA comes from our mother. The Pacific Ocean is so large that there is a point where you could tunnel straight through the Earth, and when you come out the other end, you are still in the Pacific Ocean. Also, there is at all times a pair of points on opposite sides of the Earth, where both the temperature and air pressure are the same. And this is true for any two continuous variables. Explanation for the second point, YouTube webpage. You could tunnel straight through the Earth, and when you come out the other end. Fun fact, you know the old dig all the way to China bit? Turns out the antipode, exact opposite point on the Earth, for just about all of North America is in the Indian Ocean. In fact, there are only a handful of places where if you went straight through, you'd pop out on land. United States Antipodes webpage. Also, if you did have a straight-through tunnel, if you vacuumed it so there was no air resistance, you could drop objects into it at one end and they would gently pop out the other with almost zero velocity. When I was a kid, I looked at a globe to figure this out and was disappointed. Same. I justified this by realizing that if I had to dig a tunnel through the Earth, it would probably be a lot of work and I'd probably take shortcuts too. I always knew the Pacific was huge, but that's insane. Directly opposite on the globe from the Gulf of Tonkin, in the South China Sea, is the coast of Chile. This, Globe View, Willial web page, of the Pacific really shows how large it is and how little land it contains. Around the 1680s in France, it became fashionable to wear bandages around your butt in order to pretend that you had surgery done on it. King Louis XIV had an anal fistula that needed to be operated on to fix, and when it was successful, people began faking it and going to surgeons even when they didn't have the condition. People who couldn't get it done just used bandages to mimic it. The surgeon who was in charge practiced for 6 months on over 70 people beforehand, none of whom had that condition. And even before doing that surgery practice, he attempted other remedies like special baths or drinks on another group, none of whom had that condition either. Apparently the only ones present for the surgery were the surgeon, 4 doctors, his war minister or chancellor? Don't recall the exact title, and his commoner mistress. His war minister held his hand for the duration of the surgery. For more fun facts like this, check out the podcast No Such Thing as a Fish. Great podcast, really funny, and it's one of the highlights of my week. Thanks. Now I have Louis XIV anal fistula in my search history. I'm leaving it there. This one gets passed around commonly, but it's pretty amazing if you haven't seen it before. Suppose you had a sheet of paper that was large enough so that you could keep folding it in half over and over. The sheet is obviously very large in area, but it's just a humble 0.0039 inches in thickness. After about 7 folds, you're just around the thickness of a regular notebook. After 10, it'll be as thick as your hand. Nothing impressive. After 23 folds, you'll have a folded paper tower that's just about 1 kilometer tall. Now we start to get interesting. After 30 folds, congrats. You're in space. Add another 12 folds to take you to 42, and you're ready to walk on the moon. After 51, you can touch the sun. With 81 folds, your paper tower is almost as thick as the Andromeda Galaxy, approximately 141,000 light years. 90 folds will get that paper tower as thick as the Virgo supercluster contains about 100 galaxies. After 103 folds, you've broken free of the observable universe, approx 93 billion light years in diameter. Exponential growth is a hell of a thing. I could only get 6 folds, could you help me troubleshoot? I really want that good moon cheese. McDonald's in Brazil has kiosks that only sell ice cream. Part of the reason is that McDonald's has to compete with Bob's Burgers, Wikipedia web page, which is the biggest burger chain in Brazil. Bob's is well known for its Ovaltine shakes, Ovaltine, Wikipedia web page, international appeal, and Brazil has the world's second largest Ovaltine market next to Thailand. Brazil's Ovaltine is super good because of a manufacturing defect that makes it crispier than other countries' Ovaltine. Because Bob's Burgers has dessert-only kiosks, McDonald's does the same to compete with them. As a Brazilian used to this, what would sound fake bullshit to me is the idea that other countries do not have kiosks dedicated to ice cream. Like, what? Did nobody in other countries think of that? This is my go-to weird fact. When it became apparent that it was incredibly difficult to harvest spider silk, which is prized for its strength, a string of silk the width of a pencil from some spiders can stop a jet mid-flight, scientists created spider goat hybrids that produce the spider silk protein in their milk, which can then be refined into genuine spider silk. They are essentially goats with spider DNA, and the scientists in charge of them call them the spider goats. There are clips from documentaries about them on YouTube, and there are many articles on the topic elsewhere. The saying "money doesn't buy you happiness." People often read into the surface of the sentence and disregard it, but aren't aware of the research behind it. Money does not buy us happiness after arcing a certain threshold, $73k USD a year last time I read, but with time I'm sure with time the amount has inflated. After we fulfill our basic physiological needs through money, money is unlikely to buy us happiness. So subjectively it might not be true for a lot of people, but objectively the statement "money doesn't buy you happiness" is likely to be correct. If money can't buy happiness, then I guess I'll have to rent it. Weird Al Yankovic circa 1980. This has become more properly known in the past few years, especially since Mythbusters covered it, but it's still my favorite. You are a contestant on the show, let's make a deal. Monty Hall has provided you with 3 doors, with a grand prize behind just one of them. You choose door number 2. Monty then reveals that door number 1 had nothing behind it, so the prize is definitely behind either door number 2 or door number 3. You are then given a chance to switch your answer. Do you switch? Most people won't switch, going with their gut instinct. After all, it's a 50-50 chance. Turns out, it's not actually a 50-50 chance, and your chance of winning is actually greater if you do switch doors.